Welcome back, everyone, to Weather Authority Live. As promised, we're going to go over our weather trivia question. We're going to go over the answer. We're going to read some guesses, and then we're going to be talking a lot about average snowfall data. So average first snow and average total snow for a season across not only Tennessee and Kentucky, also the entire country. So it's actually pretty interesting data. Okay, let's flip over to, we got to go to the Facebook page. Okay, here's our guesses. Already said Laurel, January 17th. Sandy says C, which is January 17th. Oh, we got to go to all comments. Sandy says C. Ashley says C. Lisa says January. So everyone, on this version, you can't really read them. I can read on my phone. We can get to there. But you're probably wondering what the answer is. Most people are guessing C, January 17th. And the correct answer, I'll spoil it right now. The correct answer is not C, but it is B. December 27th is when Nashville typically sees its first measurable snowfall. So we haven't seen a measurable snowfall yet. We had to trace a couple times, but nothing that was 1/10 of an inch or more. This is normal. We don't normally see it until after Christmas, until 27th. So here is the average for snowfall from across our area. December 27th in Nashville. As you would expect, the further north you go, the earlier it is. December 25th for Bowling Green, December 18th for Paducah, December 9th for Lexington. That's the earliest one. And then later for Knoxville, a little bit earlier for Chattanooga. It's kind of strange. They don't get much snow. And then much earlier for Memphis, not typically until January there in West Tennessee. So that's for across our area. Most of them are in mid-December, mid to late December. And then across the country, there's some really early average first snows if you're going over the mountains. Billings in October. October 19th is their average first snowfall. In Denver, late October. Denver was actually crazy. This year, they didn't see anything, I think, until maybe last week or something. They were I think they had the latest first recorded snowfall on record in Denver. So they had a really abnormally dry, probably, and mild fall. And then most of the northern states in November, where I grew up near Portland, Maine, November 27th. So really not until after Thanksgiving. That's pretty normal. I grew up kind of on the coast. That's where Portland is. And we'd always judge like how harsh the late fall or early winter was by when we could skate on our pond. When it froze thick enough, 3 inches of ice, where we could skate. And some years it'd be before Thanksgiving. Usually it'd be after. And usually it'd be right after Thanksgiving. And then it would snow on top. And then you'd have to clear out the snow. Sometimes the snow got too heavy and it was dangerous trying to shovel it off. That was a whole predicament. Northern people problems, I guess, shoveling off ponds. Fargo, early November. Same with Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Marquette, November 8th, 20th in Chicago. So here in Nashville, the 27th, we're actually kind of close to New York City. So they're a lot further north than us, but because they're mid-December, same with Washington, D.C. Oklahoma City is December 19th. And then obviously the further south you go, later, January 20th in Dallas. Houston had a couple years where they had measurable snow, but I didn't think it was enough data to include a date. Atlanta just had enough data. There was a couple years where they didn't also get measurable snow. January 10th is their average first measurable snow. Again, this is only 1/10 of an inch, so not much. And then Tampa is only recorded measurable snow twice since 1898, I think. Just twice, so obviously nothing there. The West Coast, they don't get much. Sacramento, they obviously get a lot in the mountains. I was trying to make these contours, the different colors, match up. It'd be impossible on the West Coast because, right at the coastline, you get no snow. And then you get inland more, you get a tiny bit. And you get up in the mountains get up to 15,000 feet. You get it really early. So it wouldn't be really possible to do it in the mountains as high definition as it would need to be because it's so drastic there on the West Coast. And so that's the average first snow, which, we haven't seen it yet, but that's normal here in Middle Tennessee. And then I wanted to talk about the average annual snow, just to give you an idea what we typically see in different parts of our region. But also I'm going to show you this map without the contours because, again, it'd be too complex. But I'm going to show you this map for the whole country. So we average about 4.7 inches of snow in Nashville. Again, this is a 30-year average, says it on the map. Get less in Jackson. And I did a weather trivia related to this. I think a couple weeks back, I said, which city in Tennessee gets the most snow on average? Memphis, Nashville, or Knoxville? And everyone was guessing Knoxville because you'd think it's further east. But they actually average a little less than here in Nashville. And my guess is, I don't know if it's necessarily true, but what if it's necessarily the case? Obviously, Knoxville's in the Tennessee River Valley, lower elevation. They are slightly higher as far as sea level, above sea level here than we are in Nashville by a couple hundred feet, but not much. But I think they get less because, they're in the valley, so they get the southerly flow maybe coming up to Tennessee Valley from Chattanooga. But I think it's caused by a snow shadow. And that's caused by higher elevation to the west, typically to the west, wherever the weather's moving from. So you can see Crossville averages over 10 inches, double digits, 11.3 inches every winter, every year. And what happens is the moisture goes up the elevation, which, the Cumberland Plateau has a minimum elevation typically along the whole plateau of around 1,000 feet above sea level. That's why they get more snow. It gets colder as you go up in height. So that moisture goes up the elevation, drops, as rain or snow, whatever, and then it goes down. And when air sinks, it actually compresses, and that can dry it out. So the air on the other side is typically not only drier, but warmer. So that's my guess is why Knoxville averages slightly less. Again, this is 30 years of data, so it could be one big storm in Nashville could have impacted that average some. I think it could be caused by the snow shadow. And then obviously the further north you go, the more snow you get. Lexington averages about 14 inches every year. And then elevation is huge in East Tennessee. The tall mountains up to 5,000. Some of them are close to 6,000 feet. They average 2 feet plus. I'm sure some of those numbers are well over 2 feet. In Chattanooga, the least amount of all of these bigger cities in Tennessee, only 2.4 inches. So that's our area. Here is the entire country. Again, I couldn't make the contours because I was trying to think about ways to do it. Could I do like 0 to 1 feet, 1 foot to, 2 feet? But then you go to Marquette, how many contours would I need to get to 16 feet of snow? That's the average snowfall in Marquette, Michigan. That's in the Upper Peninsula, 16 feet on average. And that's due to lake effect snow. That's when the cold winds blow over the relatively warmer waters of Lake Superior in that case, and they soak up all that moisture and then drop it on the land as snow. That's crazy. Think about it. 16 feet on average each winter. 20,000 people live in Marquette. So people are experiencing that. And that's not the snowiest place in the United States, but it is, I'd say, pretty close to the snowiest place that has a lot of people or snowiest place that has a city. Because the Cascade Mountains in Washington State, they average about 50 feet of snow. 50 feet of snow every single year in the Cascade. Mount Rainier is specifically where they get the most snow.